Hello, Basslightning here, and welcome to my Creation Cave Chapter 2. And I'm just going to do a combination narrative and process, experience, and what I do and my methods. And that's about it. So I'm just going to get the cam set for you all. Like that. How about that? See my fingers. Follow my fingers. So, try to speak up so you can hear me. I'm not using any PA system or anything. I'm not using my PA. Just have my channel switcher down here. Just direct in to my 50 watt amp behind me. And of course I have Mr. E Drummer hooked up, my Alesis SR16, which I've used on countless albums that I've recorded and live videos. So yeah, I'm gonna go into just kind of like what I do in my Straight Muscle Diaries. It's kind of a topic discussion. So when I'm going through the creative process, and again, the parts that I use for these, narrative / workshop type of videos, which I don't do that much of. Most of them are performance videos. This stuff isn't copywritten. It's not until it goes into a complete song, and I'm just explaining techniques and just showing out there to people who followed my work for years and newcomers. Everyone's welcome. I'm certainly not a guitar teacher. I don't have a music degree, but I have played over 2,500 shows. Placed second in a national jazz competition in Virginia. Offered record deal from Atlantic Records subsidiary. And played at festivals in front of thousands, and I've played a gig to 5 people. So I've done a lot of different varying success type of circuit cover bands in Vermont, Massachusetts, and New York, tri-state area mainly. Now I'm upstate Vermont, of course. I've been for the last 20 plus years. Anybody who knows me probably knows that. And my project used to be August Theory. Now it's called Basslightning. I don't know why I changed it. I just figured after 13 years it was time to change things up a little, use some different graphics, do a little different approach maybe. Some of it's the same, some of it's different. Everything evolves, and changes, or it should. And, it's no different with my solo work. I enjoy this work more than I have any band I've ever played in. And seems to be a lot of issue-laden bands up here in the North Country. I don't know. One band kicked me out. I had, they're a bunch of morons anyways. I had another band running their mouth on social media more recently, this past spring, making false, baseless accusations and just a feeble attempt to cover up their own unprofessional nonsense, which I won't get into all that negative stuff because I don't let it bring me down. Don't care. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I've accomplished and what I may accomplish in the future. If I just want to be a studio hermit, so be it. That is really the heart of my creativity and myself as an artist, really is this stuff that I enjoy much more than playing in any cover band. I enjoy some of the cover bands, don't get me wrong. The M80s project I did with Tim Gregg was probably the best project I've ever done as far as potential. We just couldn't find the right lead singer. If you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about. We had a killer project. What was that, about 4 years ago ish time frame, with Ray Carroll on drums. If we had the right singer, we could have had a killer circuit 80s metal band. It didn't take us long to put it together. It was just went through like 5 singers. Everybody was too far away. The right guys were Rick Lafayette. He lives too far away. Brandon Clark, I thought, was a great potential. A little younger, less experienced than Rick, but he was great. Good looking guy, good singer. He was great to front the band. But he's too far away. He's too busy. Had too many irons in the fire. He's a race car mechanic and driver down at, I think, Thunder Road. And you know, he's got a girlfriend and a wife and a job, and you know, you don't have so much time to drive, commute hour and a half to rehearsal every week. I understand that. So different. I'm just using that as an example. Nothing against Brandon; he's a great singer. But it just didn't pan out to find the right type of 80s metal singer. And that stuff is very hard to sing. You know, Skid Row and any of that kind of stuff. Crocus, and you know, it's out of my range vocally. You know, I just do my own stuff, and if I sing in a band, I normally don't do a lot of lead. I do a very little bit of lead, and I do a lot of, you know, harmonies and backing vocals. I do have vocal capabilities, but obviously it's not the main skill in my toolbox. My best skill is bass guitar, obviously, but I enjoy this guitar work. It's fun. I am a good guitarist. I'm just a better, more experienced bassist, but when I'm by myself, it seems to be more fun doing guitar. I don't know. It's just the bass stuff is cool too, but I think I don't know. I've just always done both. You know, be it as it is. That's it, and that's it in a handbasket. And so I think just to get on par with the narrative here and topic, I'm going to go into, say, I have some ideas that I'm working on, whether it's diatonic, or if I'm in the flats, or if I'm using major and minor triads, chord patterns in those triad frameworks, or if I'm, you know, just for connecting up the neck for soloing or whatever it is. You know, I always start with basic raw idea of the chord pattern with drums. That is always where I start personally. I mean, to each their own. Some people start with the lyrics. I start with the music. Then I add the lyrics later. That's how I do it. And any of the stuff I've done that's like song patterns and stuff like that, song skeletons, I call them, are song parts that evolve into songs, you know, so. All right, so I'm going to get into some of my latest you know, song ideas, song skeletons, song parts, if you will. And like I said, I program in some stuff. Some of these beats are the same samples I've always used, and just with variations of changing the drum kit, changing the tempo, and things like that. And other things are, you know, just sample beats and stuff. It's really just to keep my timing more than an actual drum production. I could get into this way deeper than what I'm doing, you know. But I just pick some beats and play along with it, and that's how I get my music out, you know. And it's quicker. I don't have to spend countless hours in a drum workshop just to get it, you know, a more intricate drum secular breakdown thing, you know. I mean, that would be better, yes, but it's really just to keep my tempo and timing, because I'm far from perfect, you know. So let me get as you can see, that is almost a complete piece. Obviously, I need to. I think I have that on the wrong setting now. Obviously, I need to. There we go. Oh, no, 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 no. There. I need to polish up the solo a little bit. The solo. I like to switch the key in the solo. I don't necessarily like to stay in the same key as the rest of the song. The same with the reason why you put a bridge section in. It gives you something different. It gives the listener something different to go to, a different place to go to, different sound, different tone center, different melody, and then you bring it back in with the A section to give them the main meat of the song, which is usually the most recognizable part of the song. This one does not stay in tune as well as my Gibson, but whatever. I still enjoy playing it. Plus the strings are relatively new. So I think basically when it comes to song skeleton ideas, I take and I transcribe them. Yes, I figure out, okay, theoretically what's going to work, but it doesn't always work theoretically along with what, kind of put this in understandable terms, so I'm not just talking shop. Musicians will understand, but everybody might not. Not to be condescending or anything like that, but just trying to explain it so everybody understands it. Sometimes it makes theoretical sense, but it does not make. It doesn't sound good. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. It just doesn't sound good. It doesn't. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't fit the song. It doesn't. Like you can put all kinds of chops in a song, but it might not necessarily sound good. You've got to pick parts that fit and sound good. That's really the most important thing over anything else, because you got to remember, 90% of the people you're presenting your material to as a musician are not musicians. So you need to keep that in mind, that everybody isn't out there guitar hero waiting for the next riff. They want to hear complete songs with good vocals, good hooks, and recognizable stuff. Most of the time when you're marketing yourself locally, it means you've got to play cover songs mostly. You can sprinkle in some originals here and there. Anybody knows that. And you go out to see a band, they don't want to go out and see an original band. They want to see a cover band that's playing classic standards and danceable stuff so they can take their girl out or whatever. And that's fine. It's a whole different topic discussion. But so what's great, the reason why I bring that out into the discussion is that because it makes sense with how I build my concepts when I'm part building, whether it's guitar solo stuff, whether it's whatever it is that I'm arranging, writing and arranging, or if I'm doing specific parts for a song that I've already created, if I'm changing things, like sometimes I'll change an older song, like what I did with Good Life on one of my recent set performances here, my virtual stage, where I took Good Life, and if you listen to the old version, which is like from like 4 or 5 years ago, it is different on purpose because I did it that way. I wanted to just change it because I still like the chorus, and I still like that heavy, F sharp, G sharp to E sound in the chorus, or is it, or sorry, E, G sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, back to E. I love that, you're in the sharps and flats. It gives you a heavier, grungier sound. Or if you're diatonic all the time, that's a good pop song. It works good with lyrics, but you shouldn't write everything diatonic. As a writer, you should try all different combinations of different things, and for ideas and putting together song arrangements and whatnot, as an arranger, as a writer. Now, as cover band, copy artist, there's not much creativity there. You're just playing stuff that's already written from someone, a famous artist making way more money than you, usually, you know. Or people who are passed on and the music lives on forever, whatever it may be, you know. I don't need to get into the whole melting pot, but, you know, so those are things to keep in mind as far as how I build from concepts that I draw from my experience in playing in a bazillion cover bands from years and years past, and playing a lot of shows out live, not really creative, only a little bit with the blues and funk band that I played in about in 2000 to 2002, no, sorry, 2000 to 2003. The blues and funk, that had a lot of original stuff, but it wasn't a lot of my original stuff. It was another songwriter stuff, which is fine, but at least it was creative, you know. And it worked. We played a lot of shows, 100 plus shows a year, you know. And then let me see, what was the other? The other one would be back years ago. You know, I did what was it? 5 albums with a songwriter, where I just played bass, sang backups. I think I sang maybe 1 or 2 songs total out of that whole catalog, but you know, he was the lead singer. It was mostly his material. He did give me songwriter credits on some of the stuff where I actually did co-write with him, so that was really cool in the Library of Congress, you know. And that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be fighting over who's got rights to what. And if it doesn't get big and famous, you make a lot of money out of it. Nobody really cares anyways, you know. But it is, from an artist standpoint, regardless of whether it became big or not, hey, I participated in arranging that song, it's on that album, and he didn't put my name on it. That's not very cool, you know. So if you're the chief songwriter, then of course your name's on just about everything, you know. So that's why I like my work here, because, you know, this is me, everything. I arrange it. I don't have to deal with people, attitudes, driving all over Kingdom Come for very little money, putting wear and tear on my vehicles, dealing with, you know, mouth running spazoids and, you know, drama queens and drama kings acting like drama queens, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's just pure fun. I can make it whatever I want. I can be as heavy as I want. I can be as mellow as I want, and I control everything. And I enjoy everybody who interacts and watches my material. And when I put out the live videos, and I really enjoy, you know, doing that, because I know, even though you're not right here in front of me dancing or whatever, I know that, you know, you are, you know, that you're engaging with me. You might not be engaging as in, you know, hey, how you doing, you know, or typing things in, but you're watching the videos, you're watching the music, you're cranking it on some device, whether it's a smartphone, laptop, computer, tablet, whatever, preferably a laptop with, or a PC with a sound system is going to be your best experience with that. And that's what I have over here. It's only 35 watts, but this thing sounds great with my laptop. You know, it's just was it a Logitech? Yeah, it's just got a small subwoofer. It's no big deal, but it works great for playback stuff because I can hear everything a lot better than on a little tiny, teeny smartphone speaker or the speaker in my laptop, which it sounds all right, but it's just not loud enough, and I can't get the bass and everything and get all the frequencies in there like you can with a sound system. So that's what I would recommend. If you're listening to my material, laptop with some kind of sound system with a sub, then you're getting the thump from my Alesis, and you're getting the highs from my guitar, my vocals, and everything combined together. And when I'm doing bass work, obviously, I try to back it off because I don't want the recording to be distorted or overdrive, because I don't have any decibel reduction software, you know, in 4K or anything like that. It's just a 1080p cam, and you know, just standard. It works pretty good. Sometimes it comes out better than others, depending on how I've got the mix in here. In this space, it's carpeted. It's a lot. I can get a pretty good tight sound. I have had a duo project up here, the Out From Under project I did. I don't know, it was before the pandemic. And then the guy moved down south, so that kind of ended that project. But, you know, that was all classic rock, dance rock, standard stuff. And I was doing guitar and vocals, and it was just a guitar and drums, kind of like the so like the White Stripes type of thing, you know, or Black Keys, or I kind of like those duo broken down 2-piece simplistic kind of lineups these days. You know, there's a few of those groups. What is it, Royal Blood? Is it just bass and drums? There might be another instrument, I'm not sure. But you know, the smaller bands, I don't really, you know, a 6-7 piece band is great because you've got all the different sounds coming at you. It's very powerful. But I kind of like the broken down raw type of bands too. That's why I like the White Stripes, and I like, you know, Jack Black is very talented. No, not Jack Black. That's the actor, Jack White. But yeah, actually Jack Black is a band too, right? Yeah. He's a musician too and an actor. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with. So let me go through another song arrangement. Let's see what we've got on Mr. E drummer. Straightforward, you know. There's the other one I wanted to present. I don't care that it's not copywritten yet, honestly. It will be soon enough. Have the lyrics about halfway through both of those pieces, and all I got to do is put them down to paper, get them to Library of Congress, send out my copyrights, and they'll be in with all my other ones from the past and present and would be future. So that's what you can see the progression of what I'm talking about. I think you can see. I'm trying to explain it so you can see through my eyes and what I create and my methods and my concepts that I draw from. Yes, I draw from music theory, of course. Everything is theory based, but theory doesn't always make sense with what you're creating. Sometimes you have to just create out of bits and pieces of ideas, which I do that actually quite a bit. So instead of, playing the hybrid scale in C, I'll take bits and pieces of it. So as you can see there, I'm taking the hybrid scale, I'm kind of twisting it around, even breaking out of that mode, because you don't always want to just stick in that same mode all the time. Like, okay, here's a C major scale. Okay, here's a C minor scale. Okay, here's a pentatonic in C, minor pentatonic. Okay, here's a major pentatonic. Yes, you want to know those scales, of course, and know what notes are contained in them, depending on which key you're in. Of course, all up and down the neck. Know your triads, major and minor. Get into your arpeggios and different things like that. You can add in some more advanced stuff like that. Of course, you want to layer on as much knowledge as you can and actually be able to play it, not just talk about it. That's a big thing. Even if you don't know every single bit and piece from theoretic explanation as to what you've created, you can look at it like I'll create something. So I'm not always drawing from that library of knowledge I've had from a bazillion years of playing. Sometimes I'm just reaching up into the cosmos, and I'm saying, well, wait, well, that's part of the hybrid scale and that's part of a major scale, but it sounds good in that solo, so I'll leave it in there. So that's the thought process right there. And that's how you become creative. As you push the envelope, you've got to make yourself sound bad to sound good, if that makes any sense. And you have to take a chance and don't be afraid. Obviously, if you're live or even on virtual stage live, you don't want to take a big chance. I mean, you want to kind of stick to the framework of what you've worked out for arrangements on any particular piece of music during a performance. That's what I do here. I'm certainly not just reaching into the cosmos when I'm doing my regular, Basslightning sets. I mean, that's just doesn't make sense. That's disorganized, mumbo jumbo. But there are times when I'll do like a section of a song and I'll say, you know what, I'm just going to take this section and I'm going to jam. And that's it. And whatever happens, happens. You have to do that sometimes to have fun. That is just the way I work. That's the way I've always done it. That's the way I like to do things. And the way I like to create with my original hard rock music is a vibe that's not really just run of the mill. It's my own thing, my own sound. I believe I've established that over the years. I mean, of course, I have influences and melting pot that you can't help but sound like somebody. There's so many artists out there that have been really good, really famous for a long time. And of course, maybe some of your stuff is similar to some different artists. Who cares? You know what I mean? As long as you're not blatantly copying somebody's riff and, or somebody's song and say, okay, that's my song. Then, of course, then that's plagiarism. That's kind of like a college paper, Don't be copy and pasting stuff in your college papers. Make sure you're actually writing the paper, because they have software now where the professors can see that it is not your own words. So use your own head. don't copy people. And the same thing with music, you know, unless you're trying to do cover songs, and of course, then you are copying people, which is why I explained earlier that on in this topic that um, you know, cover bands are not creative because you're just playing regurgitated parts that have been played by 50 zillion cover bands forever. The best thing you can do in that situation is to pick songs that maybe every other band in the region are not doing. You know, that's always a nice thing. That was what was great about the M80s project, is we were doing songs that, you know, like you know, the Crocus stuff and the Bonham stuff. I haven't heard any bands around here doing those songs, you know, which was, if we could have found the right singer, that would have been killer, because we would have had some great selection of sleaze metal and 80s hair metal stuff kind of combined with classic rock with the Foreigner, and you know, we would have had a different animal that's different than the run-of-the-mill bands I've seen around here. Not to bash on anyone, but let's face it, they're all playing basically the same stuff. You know, I mean, a lot of it. Because it works. It works in the clubs, but you want to still give your own stamp on your performances and not just play the same songs everybody else is playing. You know, I mean, even if they work, sometimes you got to be like, well, yeah, but there's like 5 other bands from here to Rutland that are playing that same song, you know, forever. So, and then another thing is changing your material up without being too ridiculous. You only have so much time to dedicate to a project during the week. You know, you don't want to keep adding on new songs every other week. That's ridiculous. You're creating too much work for people, but at the same time, don't just play the same songs forever. You know what I mean? You do want to bring new material in and rotate it in and change it up, because some of those same patrons will be there seeing you play again, you know. So again, a whole different topic discussion itself. I don't want to wander too much, but that's really the concept behind cover band versus original band versus songwriter, studio hermit like myself. I've done it all. I've done big circuit bands. I've done little garage bands. I've done jazz bands. I've done blues bands, funk bands, hard rock bands, classic rock bands, dance bands, pretty much every kind of band you can imagine that is marketable in this region. You know, I've done just about everything at one time or another. So I don't base my writing on that. That's really just business and marketing. It's okay, this is what we have to play. We want to have a little different product to present in our show, but you know, it's a whole different mind concept. I don't know, I'm trying to explain it to where everybody understands what I'm saying, you know. In my approach as an artist, as a musician, sometimes artist, musician, and performer need to come together as one, not separate things. Like, so let's do a comparison. David Lee Roth versus Sammy Hagar. 2 multi-famous, mega millionaire frontmen from Van Halen's frontman past. Now, who do you think is the actual better singer? Let's hear it. You know it's not David Lee Roth. However, who do you think is the better entertainer? You know it's not Sammy Hagar. See what I'm saying? What David Lee Roth lacks in vocal skill makes up for in his physical presence and the show that he puts on. He's flying around through the air with his karate kicks and flamboyant, you know, and his vocals match the original sound of Van Halen, you know. Absolutely. So that's just one example, you know, on the top level of music out there, on the very top level, you know, that I'll never get to that level probably, because I'm just here, nobody in nowhere, Vermont, doing my stuff just because I enjoy doing this and presenting it. And personally, I don't really care if I ever become more successful or not. I've been in successful bands. I've been in dead-end bands. I've been in party bands that never leave their house. I've been in bands that tour all over the place. You know, it's just a matter of the people that you're with and being on the same page right from square one is the most important thing. Because if you get a guy who joins a band, or a girl, you know, and they're like, okay, I want to join the band, but then they don't really think it through. Oh, well, my kids have soccer practice on these days, so now I can't make it to the shows. Or, well, why didn't you say that before you auditioned for a band? You know, things like that. I ran into all kinds of different people like that. Yeah, musicians are liquid; they come and go, you know. But in the band situation, it's just it's hard to find reliable people who are good enough in talent and their toolbox, who are reliable and aren't egotistical, self-absorbed spazoids. You know, that's what I call them. Because we're just playing music here. We're not saving the planet. You know, you don't need to think you're the greatest god to gift to playing an instrument. You know, when there's great talent out there everywhere, always has been, always will be, and it's just the way it is. You know, pretty much with anything that you do, really. So, not to get into too much philosophy, but in concept, bring it back to my topic and narrative. In terms of concept, I really do try to be different. I realize that some of my stuff doesn't sound different because it's rock and roll and there's only so many combinations that work with vocals. So that's where, like, I'll stay diatonic, or if I'm in the sharps and flats, whatever it is, I'll keep it those sections so that they are structured good so the lyrics work with them. Since most of my stuff is vocal orientated stuff, not instrumental, I do some instrumental stuff, which those are fun too, but most people like vocal orientated music. They can hear the melody, it goes over the top of everything and it makes a complete song, you know. Um, so that's really that's I don't want to say that's why I do mostly vocal orientated material, but it's just what I've always done, you know. I've always done that. That's always been, you know, in my toolbox is creating songs that are supposed to be put with vocals. And whether it's I'm working with a songwriter or I'm doing it all myself, that's really the same concept I use. Is drawing from theory, yes, of course, but also drawing from your imagination and creative instincts that force you to create different types of arrangements and scales and licks and whatever it is you're doing, and applying it to the fretboard, or if you're a drummer, or if you're a keyboardist, bassist, whatever it is, percussionist, whatever. It's the same exact mindset in my approach. If I was to do all those other, you know, I consider myself a multi instrumentalist because I play bass, guitar, and drums good enough to do it professionally anywhere in the world. Um, and I can sing good enough to do it anywhere in the world. Um, but my vocals for cover music are more limited because I don't have a huge range to cover the, you know, the Foreigner classics and the Aerosmith and the Guns N' Roses and all that. You know, I don't have that kind of range to be a cover person, you know. So that's why in bands that are out, you know, I mostly just do like some backup harmonies, which I do have a good ear. I have good pitch training from years of just doing all that stuff. And, you know, I work out best fit as a bassist and backup vocalist, really, in the professional environment with a band, because that's my best skill to present in a band situation. However, I do enjoy this stuff. I don't care if I'm not as advanced on guitar or experienced as I am on bass. I still love doing it, and I'm coming up with new good stuff all the time, and it just never stops. It's like a hamster wheel where the hamster never gets tired. You know, it just keeps going and going and going, and I have to release it. You know, otherwise I'm going to be on medication here. You know, it's just the way it works with me. It's that's why some of my material tends to be a little more intense than others, because it's really it's the essence of the feel of the instrument. If you don't have good feel, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you could have, a master's degree in music performance or whatever, bachelor's, master's, and if you don't have good feel for your instrument, it's not going to matter how much technical skill you have. You're going to sound like a robot, you know. No offense against Ingve, but he kind of sounds like a robot with all those classical scales playing 50 million miles an hour. Doesn't do nothing for me. Yeah, and how many years you have to spend to learn that? Oh my god, it's just not. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm more like Angus Young, you know, like Angus Young, Randy Rhoads, respectively, which is who was obviously a more advanced guitar player than Angus Young was. You know, rest in peace. But you know, stuff like that, hard rock stuff that I can grasp. You know, Ace Frehley. You know, guitarists that I can grasp where I don't have to study their style forever to be able to play their riffs. Eddie Van Halen is probably, he's up there with, with the top guys. I don't think he was schooled like some of the top guys, but he just had that innovative technique, array of techniques. He was a great player. He was a great instrumentalist. He played bass, keyboards really well. I'm sure he played drums too. Great songwriter. He's legendary for a reason. Rest in peace with him too. There's a reason why there's a bunch of Eddie Van Halen wannabes running around out there, because he was awesome, and his music will last forever. His riffs and all that, all that stuff. I just can't see in myself. I know I've got the skill to do it, but I don't want to spend countless hours figuring out those riffs, for what? I mean, go audition for a band, I guess, and get some work. Yes, that is one concept, of course. But when I'm auditioning myself, I'm not auditioning myself as a bassist. Or as a lead guitarist. I did try one band out. Yeah, it was over in Elberg, and I was a little bit too heavy for them. I think they were looking for more of a hippie noodler, and I'm a hard rock guy. I'm a little less versatile on guitar than I am bass. Bass, I can play pretty much anything. Any style, just about. I mean, and fit in with just about any band out there. Guitar, I tend to put that hard rock edge on just about everything because I love it, but it doesn't work for bands that they want somebody who's just a noodler, just to play a few leads, and that's what they wanted. And it's I thought it sounded pretty good, but they weren't happy with it because like I said, I was playing everything a bit too heavy. Like it worked for like the Billy Idol covers and and the U2 and some of the other stuff that required that sound. But I know when I got into some of the lighter classic rock stuff where I should have been a little more noodly and more mellow sounding, and I was still so when you're auditioning for a band in front of a bunch of strangers who don't really know you and haven't worked with them before, be versatile, be able to do whatever they want. And, it wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It was just, they were looking for somebody probably more versatile and experienced than I am on lead guitar. Bass, I could have, flied circles around their audition because that's where my experience is, with being versatile and being able to play a lot of different genres of music. I can do some, like with guitar, like funk, blues, classic rock, hard rock, and metal. But when it gets into more of the eclectic stuff, like the, I don't know, it's hard to, like the noodly kind of stuff. I don't do a lot of that noodling kind of stuff, really. I'm not really into that. Noodly, Grateful Dead-ish kind of, I'm not into that, really. Nothing against Grateful Dead. They had some great songs. Truckin' is an awesome song. They had some great music, don't get me wrong. Yes, I know this. But it's not my thing on guitar. On bass, of course, I can play anything, pretty much. But so that's really my concept as in why I write hard rock style. That's why I'm telling you guys all this, guys and girls, whoever's watching this. Down the road, it'll stay on my Facebook and YouTube channels forever. Facebook social media profile and my YouTube channel. Make sure to check me out, Basslightning 666, which is basically the same material you're seeing on here, transferred over there. It just depends on what platform you prefer. There's not a lot of material and content that is different there than there is on here, because a lot of it starts here and then goes over there. Know what I mean? It starts here, then goes over there. So I guess that's about it. I guess I'm giving you guys an earful of my concept workshop. But that's really what I'm going to do. Actually, I'll do something just a little different. Is I'm going to show you right from the beginning something, like a chord pattern idea type of thing that's not a complete song, but that I'm working on. And you'll see the concept, and what it'll do is it will amalgamate, meaning change and mold into something real, something I'll present. But I like to show like the bits and pieces and the bare bones too. It's showing the whole process basically is what it's doing. So let me just get into that a little bit before I close you guys out here, thank you for joining me. So. Now you see, basically, and that is not even close to being a finished product. As I'm still working on the solo piece where I'm actually going to the minor too, so I'm going up like from a pentatonic perspective. Or actually, but no, that would be. Yeah, so it would actually be a major second. Sorry. See, I screw up too. So from a pentatonic perspective, I'll take, okay, just in this case, I'm not doing this all the time. I use different types of scales for creation. But so say we'll do the G major pentatonic, well, to say G pentatonic, so it's. So so I just step up to the A there, I can go in when I'm in the midst of my soloing, I'm taking that it's derived from the pentatonic scale, even though I'm not using the actual second position of that pentatonic scale. So to you theory guys out there, you can like over explain it and tell me exactly what that is, but I know major second, then it's your third, then it's your fourth, your fifth, your sixth, your seventh, and up to your octave. Yes, I know these things. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to explain every single detail in theoretical perspective. That's just ridiculous. And I don't want to do it. You know, figure it out for yourself, I guess. But this is basically where I'm deriving some of my solo work is I will change positioning up to the second. Well, the second position, if I'm following the pentatonic, would be here. See that up to the A sharp. Instead, I'm just going to the A, but I'm keeping it pentatonic, but there comes this combination thing again. I'm combining pentatonic with chromatic, then I'm back to pentatonic when I'm up to the third position of the scale. So I'll show you what I mean. See that? You can see that? Now, it's all, even though I changed positioning on the second note, which isn't actually in that key of pentatonic scale, it's A sharp. Even though I changed the positioning, it's still pentatonic based, and I added in C chromatic on the on the third positioning. So that would be, or sorry, second positioning. And then the third positioning, I'm back into the scale. So I'm just trying to explain as I'm going across the fretboard what my mind concept is. So it's basically it's see what I'm saying? So you can change it up. You don't have to stay in the framework of that scale, you know? You don't have to just play it by the book because it's written that way. You can change it up. I'm doing different variations in there all the time, not because I don't know the scale, it's because I'm doing it on purpose, you know? You know what I'm saying? So because it changes the tone centers, it changes, it's not just run of the mill. I'm just using pentatonic because that's the best example because it's used in a lot of popular music, you know. So, and you can do the same thing in A. Yeah, so you can see there now. I use again. Now I'm not always thinking in terms of okay, let's do everything with pentatonic based progressions. No, I'm not thinking that at all. It's just for that one particular piece that I was showing you where I did the solo. I'm just combining. All I did really was take a pentatonic scale, throw in part of the chromatic scale from the C chromatic scale in the G pentatonic, which also you can do. You can see I also threw hybrid in there when I'm changing my positioning at the top positions. You know, You know, of course I switched to A, but whatever. The other solo was I was rotating between G and A, you know, and with that was my concept in that particular guitar solo. And because I don't like to turn it into jam songs, sometimes I'll do that a little bit, but I mean, do you really want to hear me sit here and solo over and over and over again for 20 minutes? I mean, no, I don't even want to hear anybody doing that, really. Keep it within the context of what a song time would be. You know, have your solo go into a couple different keys or whatever, or even if it's over a groove, but try to change the key of the solo from the actual key of the song. Then it sounds different and it gives you diversity within the context of the song. That's the most important thing that I do is you'll see my songs. Sometimes the solo's in the key of the tonic, which is the root key of the song. But not always. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll switch it up. Like if the song's in E, then I'll go into solo in A, you know, or whatever, you know, it may be. I like soloing in A because there's so many different inversions and variations and things I can do using open and closed positioning and E as well. That's why they're so popular with a lot of guitarists, E and A, because it's just a lot of sound going on in there, you know. F sharp's kind of cool too. Um, you know, F sharp is basically one of my favorite keys to sing in because my voice is like perfect for F sharp minor or F sharp major, whatever it may be. Um, so I like to go into the sharps and flats too, not just diatonic. That's another thing is, you know, don't just write all of your stuff square. You know, don't just write everything in a standard, straightforward format. Sometimes, yes, because it supports the vocals, again, that vocal thing, but break out of that and do something different in there. Throw a groove in there, like a chromatic groove, combined with the pentatonic, like what I just showed you my solo concept was on that other piece. You know, that's just one example. You can do 1,000 different variations of that in different modes of thinking with that same thought process, if that makes sense. I'm not going to say that again. I'm not going to repeat it. So, but that is it. That's exactly it. That's exactly the way I'm thinking pretty much all the time, even on bass. Um, so that's basically where it comes from for me. That's where I draw from theory, yes, and I draw from my inner creative madness that's always going on, yes. Reaching into the cosmos, combining it with what makes theoretical sense, and most importantly, what makes sense for that particular song. That is the most important thing. Does not matter if you play all kinds of thrills and trills and sweeping riffs and whatever. If it does not sound good with the song, it does not matter because everybody who's listening will be like, "That's kind of doesn't really work. It kind of sounds too busy, too many notes, ridiculous." You know, sometimes you want to do that. Yeah, of course, you want to build skills and show things that are a little tricky, so other guitar players go, "Ooh, wow," you know. But really, the most important thing is the song. Absolutely, 100%. So you know that if you get anything out of this workshop, that's really for songwriting now. That's really what I'm drawing from. I'm not saying that's going to work for you. Things work differently for different players. Of course, I understand that, but since this is my, you know, Facebook Live and my YouTube channel, this is what I do. So it's just presenting myself, and what I'm doing is always something that I like to give workshops on once in a while, just to show, you know, my concepts on what I'm doing. You know, I don't know why. I just think it's important, and I show the inner workings of what I'm doing sometimes. I don't do it all the time. That's why I don't do these that often. Most of what you're going to see are my finished performances, virtual stage, here it is, let it rip, and here comes Basslightning, coming at you live, full bore ahead. That's really when I'm in performance mode. That is what I'm doing. I'm not thinking, well, this conceptual is I'm drawing from this thing here. I'm not thinking of any of that stuff, man. I'm just playing the thing and making sure it sounds good. Sometimes I have to do some variations, like, most of the time I do remember what I wrote, but sometimes I'll forget a part, like, oh man, there's this part concept, in this, on the, it'll be like a connector section, like a bridge going back into a verse, and there was something I put in there, and if I don't remember it, then that's what's called an accidental, And what I'll do is I'll just put a chord there and connect it, and then go into it and be like, oh, it wasn't that part that I originally wrote. I'm not perfect. I'm not a robot. I don't have a photographic memory. I don't read everything off from standard notation or, tablature. I don't read I can transcribe and, sight read that stuff onto what I'm doing. You know how much time that takes and adds on to the writing process? Ridiculous. I mean, I'm not really fast at it, so it takes me twice as long to transcribe everything and then read it as I'm playing. Okay, here's the part, That's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that, I remember 99.9% of my parts. Once in a while, I'll forget a riff or something, and then I'll put something else in there in the midst of a performance on my virtual stage, or if I'm out live, the same thing, And it works. As long as it works and it sounds good, then I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because obviously you want to be 100% all the time, but nobody is. I don't care who I don't care who you say or what artist, if they're famous or not. Nobody is perfect. I don't care how much knowledge you have or how great you think you are. We're human. Things happen, you know what I mean? And we don't always remember everything. That's just the way it is. Be humble. Present your craft, but don't think you're better than everybody else. That's just ridiculous. I know that I'm a good bassist. I know that I'm a good guitarist. I'm an established professional. I have been for a long time. But I don't go around brandishing it, because I'm a musician. That's it. There's a lot of musicians out there. There's a lot of people that aren't. Everybody has something that they're good at. But but what I've presented here today is a slightly different type of workshop, where I play a little bit, talk a little bit. I have done that before once in a while. I don't do it that often, because nobody really wants to hear me sit here and ramble on about my playing. But there is a method to the madness, is I'm just showing you my creative process and what I'm doing when I'm on guitar, on bass, writing, performing, whatever, for all of you, or if I'm just recording my MP3s in the home studio to, upload onto my Reverb Nation platform under Basslightning, or SoundCloud, and that's basically where I'm at with everything, and that's where I was at years ago. I've just come up with different ideas. I think my playing has definitely evolved and improved. I'm talking about my guitar playing. My bass playing, of course, that kind of goes along with it. They're both very similar instruments. Although bass is related to drums as well. I'm also an accomplished drummer, even though I don't play drums that much. I can play drums. I don't have the endurance for it. I'd have to build myself up probably for I don't know, month or two. But I don't want to become a drummer, so I just don't, but I can play, and I could play good enough easily to play in any of these circuit cover bands if I wanted to do that. It's just not in my ambition box of, Pandora's dreams and nightmares, So, all right, I'm going to close you guys out, and as always, thank you for joining me. We'll catch you all in the next one. Check out my virtual stage performances on here on my YouTube, Basslightning666. Thank you all for joining me, and we will see you again soon, folks. Keep it loud, keep it heavy, hard rock and metal, as always.